Welcome to Perpetual Friday. This is our third official live stream. We don't have Ralph Burns with us today. He's off on vacation doing something probably a little more fun than this. But joining me as our surprise guest is my business partner, the chief strategist at Solutions 8, easily the smartest Google Ads guy on the planet, John Moran. John, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was going to say, it looks like Ralph Burns looks a little bit different today.
Yeah, Ralph shaved his head.
Yeah, he looks like he got hit by a truck. So
yeah, Ralph's on. I don't know where Ralph is. I probably should ask that. Yeah, he's somewhere having lots of fun.
And I got suckered into this.
Yeah, I need your help. Don't put me out there alone. You know what's funny is we had there was a tropical storm that was almost a hurricane or something. I'm saying all the wrong words, but something happened and Ralph's internet went out for about 20 minutes during our last live stream.
Oof. So it's just you just pantomiming fun things.
Floundering, dude, it was horrible. And thank God some of our live listeners were like lobbing me up some softball questions. They're like, all right, dude, here's something you can talk about. It was
what
bad.
Conditioner do you use on your hair?
Yeah. Is it obviously condition? Cool. So just if you're joining us for the very first time, Perpetual Fridays are a recurring thing. We were sort of beta testing it, I guess, or alpha testing it, really. And we've got the green light from DM. We're doing this every Friday. It's going to happen at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Show up, bring your questions. You know, the Perpetual Traffic podcast is using this to guide our muzzle, right? So we want to know exactly what it is that you want to hear about and topics that you're interested in. So anything traffic related, and honestly, we can expand beyond that too. We can go, marketing, entrepreneurial endeavors. We want to kind of stay close to, the digital marketer theme, of course. So if you're here and you're live, use this opportunity. Ask us questions. There's a chat stream. Drop your questions in the chat, and we're happy to ask you anything, or we're happy to answer anything you ask. That was phrased properly. I did it. And this is live. There's no going back. I will say, and John, I'm about to embarrass you. John truly is a global authority in the space of Google Ads. He's speaking on smart shopping at Traffic and Conversion this year. And by the way, if you're not going to Traffic and Conversion, you're making a catastrophic error that you're going to regret for the rest of your life. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah. It's possibly the worst thing I'll ever do. So just go.
Yeah, it's easily the worst thing you'll ever do. If you're not going to this event, and y'all, I mean, jokes and hyperbole aside, we've gone every year since what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah, and unless it's like, the birth of your child or something like that, you should be going.
Yeah, you should absolutely be going. There's no other way to just get so close to the center of all the information. Like all the best thought leaders in the whole wide world converge on this event, and then they just download all this amazing information for you.
Each time we go, I get the shiny object syndrome, and so after we leave, I'm like, oh, we need to do all the things.
All the things, yeah, that's exactly right. So it's a really good point. A note for, especially if it's your very first time. Ryan has the half-built bridges presentation, which I won't ruin for you because I'm sure he's going to do it this year. Somebody will. But skipping to the end, I'll Shyamalan the thing. Focus on one. Focus on get one really good, solid undertaking, something that you want to do, because otherwise there's so much opportunity. It's overwhelming. It's truly overwhelming.
Yeah, and you visit 3 breakouts in one day, and then there's your 3 build bridges that you're all of a sudden you go back to the hotel room and you have a team meeting. You're here's everything we need to do, and nothing gets done. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, we've definitely never done that before.
Dude, our poor staff after TNC. It's you guys. we brought 100,000 things, and we're gonna do all of them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the event, and I mean it's gotten huge. I mean, the first time we went, I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 people, and I'm pretty sure that they're projecting 10. If I didn't just make that up, nobody yell at me if that number is incorrect. But they moved from the Marriott to the San Diego Convention Center, because we basically outgrew it.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe, and then people come from everywhere. I remember when we went, I think it was 2 years ago, they had because last year was virtual, and they had a show of hands. We're who's from Australia, and then 20% of the crowd, and then who's from the UK, and then another 15% of the crowd. People come from everywhere.
All over, yeah. Singapore, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's every imaginable place. People fly in and they're like, we've traveled 19 hours to get here. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's super cool. And you know what's funny about it too, and hopefully I'm not about to say anything that's going to get me into trouble. It's the only event I've ever been to where people that would normally keynote at other events are on like the secondary stages. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
So like you go, I mean, Frank Kern had a breakout on a B stage. And I mean, he's freaking Frank Kern, you know what I mean? He's one of the greatest marketers of all time. Pat Flynn, same thing. He wasn't on main stage. He was now, drew a huge crowd and they did a phenomenal job. I'm not disparaging them at all. All I'm saying is this is where the elites, it's like the dream team.
Mm-hmm.
It's like watching the US basketball team in the Olympics. It's just like, holy, like, you know what I mean? There's too many people. And it's insane because you're watching some of them on the bench and you're like, how did you just bench like one of the greatest players who's ever lived? But you can only fit so many people up there. So yeah, anyway, I'll stop gushing about TNC. Man, I'm excited. And what should you talk about, John? What are we chatting about at TNC?
So we're going to be doing smart shopping and kind of just the global e-commerce campaigns that you should be running. So for Google Ads specifically, smart shopping is, and I'll fight people on this, the be all end all of the e-commerce type of campaign you should be running. But there's also so many other things that you need to cover that you can end up accidentally, shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. So when you run smart shopping, there's this very specific way you need to run smart shopping, specific milestones and timelines that need to be hit. Other campaigns that are also going to be supplementing that, so like DSA and inbound search, brand campaign, competitor, yada yada yada. The proper attribution model that you want to be running. What conversions you need to track? How do you need conversions? How to set up the return on ad spend goal, what your average cart value is, and how that equates to what sort of scalability you can have. All of those things are going to be covered. So it's e-commerce focused and packaged, just specifically for Google with an emphasis on smart shopping.
So I'm already, first of all, mind blown, and second of all, a little overwhelmed because that's a lot.
I got 45 minutes, so no one can play me on half speed too.
Yeah.
Might go a little fast, but it's good.
That's my favorite. I've had people tell me that I normally watch videos on 2x speed. It's not necessary with you.
Right.
You're welcome. Yeah, and you're on the first day.
And it's my first like real public speaking event. So everyone just ignore the wet spot in my pants that might form like halfway in the beginning.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure you'll do great. I'll be in the crowd like heckling you though.
Right. Liar. Hey.
That's not true, and we can prove it.
Yeah, that's what's actually what's sad too is that there's probably people listening to this and like, I've tried smart shopping before and it just didn't work. There's a lot of truth to that. There's campaigns that we take on that when I look at the beginning and to see like how it was set up first, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked. Like there's a really,
the way that Google tells you to do it is wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like imagine buying something and then the instructions that come with it are wrong. You know what I mean? How frustrating.
And there's no returns. You can't just give that back. Yeah. If it wasn't Amazon Prime to your front door, like you're out that money now.
Yeah.
So doing it the right way is super important. Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is when it works like forever. It's just amazing. And that's what I love about that is it's something that you can set your watch to and really just get really good, consistent results. Now, obviously, there's always going to be bumps in the road. It's marketing. This is how literally the definition of marketing. Like it works until it doesn't. But that's where that's what we're going to teach you is what to do when things start to get a little haywire. But yeah, starting it off, it's funny. You can kill a smart shopping campaign by just using the wrong settings from day one. And unfortunately, that's what Google teaches, and you think like they make their money off pay per click. Like why would they want this to run right?
Yeah, they're just trying to move everything to an automated ecosystem that they can control.
Yeah, kind of water it down, I think sometimes too.
Yeah, I'm curious for those of you that are joining us live, what kind of business are you in? Drop it in the chat. Who's e-com? Who's lead generation? Who's local? Who's SaaS? Give us a sense as to who you are, because I think that's going to help guide the conversation a little bit too. It's funny, everybody puts digital marketing into a bucket, and like it's the most diverse. What I think is hysterical is when I see people hiring for it. They're like, oh yeah, we need a digital marketer, and you have to know web dev, SEO, PPC, content, video. And I'm just like, oh really? All of those things, do you? Yeah, and they want one person, and oh by the way, it pays $12 an hour, and you can start part time. Haley says that she's e-com. That's awesome, Haley. So you're in the right space. It's one of our favorite topics in the whole wide world.
You know what's interesting about e-com too, and the one thing that I love about e-com, and something that I don't think is taught very often, which I find very, very surprising. And this is true from the big Fortune 100 companies like Nike's, Adidas. Like there was a recent article that came out that the bigger companies will spend kind of like just to the moon when their average order amount is over like 1.12, something small. So basically, like if you have over 110% return on ad spend, they just scale that thing to the moon.
So as soon as they're breaking even.
Well, yeah, it's funny because when you think about breaking even, you're like, yeah, but what about your costs? And you got to be losing some sort of money. And when you're looking at e-com specifically, if you take the average number of orders that comes through in a 12-month period, and I like to do 12-month period, not lifetime value, just because your time to get paid back if it's like 6 years is not really going to help you until like year 6. So
yeah, small businesses don't have the cash flow to support that.
Right. You can't just be like cash flow negative for the first 5 years. That doesn't make any sense for you.
Yeah.
But when you look at the average amount of orders in a year time period, if you see that it's like, I'm just going to use some round numbers. It's most likely like 2.6 or 3.2. But if you have like three orders on average, and your average cart value, which is just the conversion value divided by conversions. If you understand what your average cart value is, and this is the same with Facebook, same with Google, Instagram, doesn't matter, is when you look at what is the cost per sale, what's the cost per essentially purchase, your CPA, if you understand that cart value, let's say is $50, and you have 3 purchases in the course of a year, that's actually $150. So if you're spending $50 to make $50 on that first sale, you're basically 100% ROAS. You've probably lost some money. But that's your cost per first customer's purchase. That's pretty much all it is. And then the second purchase and the third purchase, there's no ad spend tied to it. So it's just 100% pure profit when they make their second and third purchase. Unless you're like targeting them, trying to bring them back and trying to make that happen. But if you're just your average from all traffic, like direct organic email, Facebook, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, sometimes even whatever it may be, if you have an average orders of 3, you can set a different return on ad spend kind of goal. And again, regardless of channel, all traffic, you can set a different return on ad spend goal, knowing that on average, you can find what your average year value is per customer, and then set your goals to that and then scale that. It's a lot easier to, you can get 1,000 customers at 100% ROAS or 250 customers at 300% ROAS. 1,000 customers pay more.
I don't know if it's Dan Kennedy. I think it is. There's an old quote though. Ryan brings it up a lot. Whoever can afford to pay most for the customer wins.
Yeah.
And if you know your numbers the way that you're talking, you're not banking on that very first purchase. You understand your numbers well enough to know that we, statistically speaking, always get at least 3.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be able to pay way more for a customer than somebody who's got blinders on. Which, with the privacy first ecosystem, which I swear we're not going to go into because we've talked about it way too much already on both on the podcast and on the channel. But it's worth knowing that for small businesses, you have to know your numbers now. We've been so spoiled the last decade, dude. It's been nuts. And now, it's first party data acquisition and know your numbers. I think that's going to be the mantra for the next half decade for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is following the big companies, they didn't get to where the size that they were because they're bad marketers. It's a shoe. Nike's a shoe. They're just really great marketers. Everyone has a cool shoe, but when you're talking about Nike versus New Balance, one's a lot larger than the other one. And knowing those numbers makes it possible to be more efficient marketers. And when those numbers are clear and concise, you can move very quickly, which is, you may not even need to pay the most for the first customer. You just need to pay the right amount for you, and then you win. And it might take you 6 months to a year to really see the true fruits of that labor. But once you're almost out of that first year, then smooth sailing after that.
Yeah, that's what I love about e-com and actually SaaS too. And if you're not familiar, SaaS is software as a service. But e-commerce businesses and SaaS businesses, it's easier to track things like lifetime value of a customer, return on ad spend. You actually know when something closes if you're in a business that relies on lead generation, which by the way is the business that we're in. John and I own a Google Ads agency, so I'm not slandering somebody else's environment. Like, this is our problem too. But if you're in the lead gen game, that data now requires significant like manual intervention. You've got to have salespeople that are updating the CRM, and anytime you have a person doing anything, there's the propensity for human error, and there's always going to be like drop off, or if the contact record changes or you get a soft referral or whatever, like you're kind of losing some of that information. And so it's really important if you're in the lead gen space, use a CRM, make sure that it's integrated well so you're capturing the proper data, and then really, honestly, what I just said is easy. Going and getting a CRM and then integrating it in your tech stack, that's easy. Mm-hmm. If anything, that's like somebody from Upwork, 10 to 20 hours. What's hard is enforcing the utilization of the tools that you build. No. People will start for like a week or two, and y'all, I'm saying this, I have 3 full-time salespeople on staff, so forgive me, Joan, John, Mike, I'm so sorry. I'm about to lob some grenades. Salespeople are the hardest people in the world to manage, in the world. And there's a reason, right? They've got like that super ultra creative brain, and they're going out 1,000,000 miles a minute, and they don't see the need for things that aren't immediately monetizable. But God bless America. If you've ever tried to get salespeople to update the CRM, like, it's just, I don't know, man, it's the battle of all battles.
We have weekly meetings with clients too, where we come over, we like send over a report. I'm like, hey, what's going on with these? Like, I don't know. I got to find out. And it's so bad too, is I'm like, well, we're making very expensive decisions based on your feedback right now. And, and it's like, am I taking that money and going here? Like, and then like see their faces like, oh, maybe over here.
Throw it all on black and you spin the wheel.
Yeah. And it's so true, because that's, the feedback from the front line. And that's really what it is. So your sales team is your front line. Yep. People think marketing is your front line. The first interaction that a person is going to have with your business is most likely going to be someone trying to sell them something, whether it be a product or a service. That's your front line. That's your, and I might upset a few people in a business, and I apologize, but that's probably one of your most important areas of your business. You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So your sales team, having those good interactions and then giving that feedback back to the marketing team, where all traffic is coming from, is, you can make some really horrible decisions and spend way wrong, and then find out 3 months later, because your sales cycle is 2 months, that oops, we didn't have that right data, and just kill a whole quarter. It's so true that feedback from the sales team is paramount. It's so important for any marketing that you ever do ever.
We've got a client right now, John and I do, whose identity obviously I won't disclose at all because I don't want them to be mad at me, but the executive staff keeps asking us, how can we boost budget? How can we increase spend? How do we grow? How do we scale? And when we dig into the numbers, what John and the team identified was, well, we're increasing the number of calls you're getting, but the number of qualified leads is either staying the same or going down. And when we analyze that, it's because their team is so overwhelmed they can't answer the phone. And so they're not fielding the phone calls, they're not answering, they're not qualifying these prospects. And so we can't technically call those leads. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see how, and this happens in every organization, so I'm not bashing this particular client. They've actually been awesome in their willingness to make adjustments. But it's interesting to see how easy it is for the executive team to be like, oh, spend, go. And then marketing to say, okay. And then we ramp up, now the phone's ringing off the hook. And then the fulfillment center is just like, dying on the vine, trying to get in front of as many people as they possibly can. And so, that's an assembly line that you have to really pay attention to.
Well, those departments are so segmented that if one department doesn't speak to the other department, everyone in their silo just thinks, "Oh, we're busy."
Right.
Yeah, and then nothing collaborates, and nothing. Those lines of communication break down, or possibly are even non-existent, and you're spending more money to see that your P&L statement there's more L. Like there's.
I'm not a math guy.
I don't know what these numbers mean, but the P is usually the good one.
More P next time, more P. That's awesome. So we've got more live listeners. Out of curiosity, for all of you that are just joining us, I'd love to know what's the biggest thing you're struggling with right now? What's the thing? And here's the way that I like to contextualize this in my coaching. If you could just wave a magic wand and fix something. And the reason that I bring it up that way is because if you ask people like, what's your biggest problem? They tend to put problems in front of you that they feel are solvable. And they take the problem that isn't solvable and they're just like, I'm just going to, keep this under my bed and hopefully one day it will atrophy and die. But if you could wave a magic wand and you could solve something, do something, create something, build something, get in front of a specific client, close a specific deal. I don't know what it is. What is it that you would do? Drop it in a chat. And just so y'all know, this isn't an academic exercise. I'm not just trying to pump you for information. We want to use your answers. We want to use what it is that you're sharing with us to guide where the narrative of the podcast goes. And if you're not familiar, incidentally, we're promoting the Perpetual Traffic podcast. It goes live every Tuesday. There's a link in the description of this video. Would love for you to tune in, check it out. The primary host is Ralph Burns. He's the CEO of Tier 11, which is the best and most respected Facebook agency on the planet. I don't think there's anybody in the world who's more adept at sharing information and content when it comes to digital marketing. So please tune in. We'd love to have you. And we'd love to answer any questions that you have. John, did that feel desperate?
A little bit, but it was good.
On a scale from 1 to 10, it was a 6. It's fine.
It's just the right amount of desperate.
Yeah. Over eager.
Yeah. Enthusiasm.
Yeah. Please talk to me.
All right. Now, let's see. So I think while we're waiting for the messages to start kind of coming in with questions, I think we can probably speak from experience and maybe just kind of get the ball rolling.
There you go.
About specific problems. And I think one of the things that we find to be both in lead generation and e-commerce is phone call statistics. I think there's a big breakdown. Every attribution software out there, every Google Ads report, every Facebook, custom conversion metric, everything. Majority of those just kind of ignore phone calls. And it's so funny because that's when you have a higher ticket item or when you have a negotiable product, like car dealerships as an example. The car dealerships, boats, RVs, you name it.
Dude, software. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Anything that might have a question before they buy or before they sign up or whatever it is. Phone calls are often ignored. And it blows my mind that typically the default to count a conversion for a phone call is like, well, did it last 60 seconds? Or did they call? Did they click the button to call? And there's been more often than not when those are not monitored or tracked. The phone calls that are missed, like we've talked about, or the phone calls that are possibly handled improperly, or the phone or the people answering the phones don't know the strategy. We've had a few times where whether it's regardless of any channel that we're marketing for the client, we're doing a kind of like a competitor campaign, like we're doing a comparison between our client and their competitor, whatever it may be. And people, they call in thinking that they're trying to find the competitor, and the front end staff's like, oh no, we're not that doctor's office. You want that doctor's office? Let me give you their phone number. Let me give you driving directions. Why don't I call and schedule an appointment for you over there? Like, it's just like,
I'm free. Why don't I pick you up and drive you down?
Yeah, I'll call you an Uber. It's just like you just start to cringe because it's just so heartbreaking to hear. And those phone calls, if they're not monitored and reported on and included, you possibly could be missing half your metrics. I mean, it's legitimately that large. We have a few clients where the phone calls are, and I won't say a few, it's a minority of our clients, but there's quite a bit of those clients that will have those phone calls that produce more than half their revenues, signups, whatever it may be. Even in the SaaS space, we debated, should we even track and measure phone calls in the SaaS space, because it's a free trial sign up. Who cares? They're not going to call. Nope, they call. They have 1,001 questions, and then the sales team gets and follows up with them, and then in 30 days they sign up. And yeah, it's just super, super, super important, and you won't know if you're missing them until you're tracking them. So please, everybody out there, if you're driving traffic and there's a phone number on your website, that's like the two prerequisites of should I, and the answer is yes. You should absolutely be tracking every phone calls, call rails, call tracking metrics, inside of your CRM tool. I think HubSpot has their own phone number. Anything that you can to track those phone calls, please do that, because when you look at campaigns that are running and you're like, we're not getting any conversions, they could be generating the most phone calls you've ever seen. The conversion might say 0 or a lot less than what's actually going on, depending on how and if you're tracking it. And you kill that campaign, you're wondering why you're losing money this year.
Yeah,
it's just super, super important.
You know what I love about phone calls that I think could potentially be the unsung hero of marketing? It's the same thing with live chat, actually. If marketers take the time to listen to the calls, which you can do if you're using, call tracking metrics, call rails, high level, whatever, the information that you hear, that's marketing fodder. You hear the language that people are using. You know how to speak to the product. You hear their objections. You hear their questions. I forgot who it was, John. We had a client who did continuing education for a type of medical professional. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 2-step process. So they had a collection of courses that they were offering, but you had to sign up. You had to get past this gate in order to see the courses. Well, we're driving traffic to this website, and we're getting tons of signups. Like, it's going great. Nobody's purchasing the courses, and we don't know why. And we're like, this is dying on the vine. So John, brilliant, lobs live chat just on the course page, just past the gate. And so we've got a live chat vendor that we use. And we start monitoring the questions that people are asking. Number one question people ask, is this in person or is it an online course? And we're like, oh my goodness, it doesn't say that on the and, the client missed it, we missed it. You just kind of assume that they know it's an online course. But as soon as we answer that question, bam, campaign takes off.
I guess it was so bad. I was like, where are these? Are these local to me? Where in Phoenix? Are they local in Scottsdale? I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's not even obvious that these are online courses. And this is during the pandemic too. People are still like, no, I'll come. I'm like, oh no. Like, I thought I was like, this is gonna be perfect. It was a nightmare to experience that, but so true. Those little nuggets of information through live chat or phone call. Like, I'll give you another example. When you listen to phone calls, or even when you're monitoring live chats, when they confirm that when the caller that calls in confirms that they're speaking with the right people, that the words and phrases that they use are just keyword gold. And so what that means is that if someone would call us, and obviously we're a Google Ads agency, it's like, hey, it's like Paper Call Solutions A, and they're like, yeah, are you the people that do the Google advertisements? Google advertisements, great keyword.
Dude, this actually happened. Somebody called and said, yeah, I need a media buyer. And I'm like, that, by the way, that's from like the 1970s. Like, we haven't called ourselves media buyers since the advent of the internet. But if you're old school, forgive me for putting it that way, if you're old school and you bought like radio, television, newspaper, whatever, they called those people media buyers. Well, when we first launched our PPC agency, somebody called up and like, we need a media buyer. And I'm like, what's that?
That's not us. Let me Google media buyer for you.
That's exactly what I did. I was like, what is a media buyer? And it turns out that, there's a whole like segment of business available to us, and they think that we're media buyers. And so, yeah, like, we've been informed by our customers multiple times in that way.
Yeah, it's funny because and for people that are doing SEO, because obviously this is traffic source agnostic, it comes from anywhere. This is even more important for SEO, because you'll find that your search engine optimization, I guess, keyword strategy is going to be more broad than PPC. No one's going to be Googling Google Ads agency, then calling us and be like, are you media buyers? No, they'll be like, okay, you're a Google Ads agency. So those most likely often match up. But for SEO, you'll say like, how do I get more traffic? Or if you're, a SaaS company, it's like, how do I, monitor my my remote employees through a desktop software, like, whatever it may be. And those things that they Google and somehow find you and then call in and say, are you A, B, and C, or I have a need for X. Like, when they give you their needs assessment, when they say, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I'm looking for, those next words that they say are just super important, because there's probably more than just that person doing the same thing. And that person's calling you. Why not expand upon that? So ad copy, landing page content, your keyword strategy, your blog content that is focusing on your SEO keywords, your Facebook videos explaining a specific use case on how using your service help this person complete the action that they were looking to complete, which is what they told you they're looking to complete. You're building that narrative. And I always tell this to our clients, because our clients will sometimes come to us with a specific set of goals. Like, I need to sell these 10 products out of these 1,000, or, I need this service here that I offer more than the other 18 services that I offer. I need this one to work the most. And a lot of times we just won't work with the client because we say, well, I'm gonna either sell a product or I'm going to make the service successful that the market wants.
Yeah, I can sell what people buy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't sell
Right.
what you want to sell. Like, if it were up to me, I'd sell toothpicks for $100 million. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when people come out of the woodwork, and clients do that. Man, it feels like 20% of the time.
Yep.
They're like, oh, this is what we need to sell. And I'm like, all right, we'll try that. But I don't know, man. I think they think we're magicians.
Yeah. Like, if you have really sleek looking pants or a wallet that's 6 times the size, probably can't sell the wallet that well. But the pants will just fly off the shelf.
Right.
And so that's the problem too, is like, if you go against the market, you will lose. 2 reasons. The market doesn't want what you're trying to sell, and your competitors are selling what they want. Yeah. And so that's the thing too, that I think on average it takes like 31, 32 impressions for a person to take action. And I think you see, like, right now on average over 1,000 advertisements or slogans or logos a day at least, to push something that may be new to the industry, or new to, I guess, the populace, or to try to force a sale, and as to maybe people don't really quite understand or want yet, is super expensive. If you're creating an industry, plan to do that for years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, that's
it can be done, but it's expensive for sure.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that's just kind of thing, is like, usually the fastest path to cash and the fastest path, and the easiest path with the least resistance, is just listening to what the market is wanting and then cater to that. And you can't do that if you're just tracking like your metrics inside of your ad platform. Say like, well, do the numbers go up or down? Like, there's still human interaction. They're going to go omni-channel. They're going to come to you from your paid ads on Instagram. Then they're going to come back through Google. Then they're going to find you on LinkedIn. Then they're going to Google your brand name one day and then buy something. But understanding what they're buying, how they're buying it, and where they're coming from, and what they need and what they're saying that they want, whether it's a chat or phone calls. I think we've removed the human element so much in our marketing that we're doing ourselves a disservice. We can't, it's kind of like the genie in Aladdin. You can't just, you can't make anybody fall in love with you because it's free will. Like, you can't control free will. It's the same thing here. you can't control free will. People are just going to do what they want to do. So to say like, no, I need this to go here, and I need this. These people that see my Facebook ad can't see my YouTube ad because it's going to be different. Like, you just can't do that. It's just not possible.
We've done it to ourselves though, because when I look at education that people are selling from a marketing perspective, the problem with it is they don't respect the end consumer. Yeah. A lot of the cheap education out there, it treats people that like, what they're selling is a mass of lemmings. There's billions of people that are just waiting to line up and enter your funnel and buy whatever it is you want to sell them. That's what I love about Digital Marketer's customer value journey. What Ryan created with the CVJ, and what's interesting is, I hope people wouldn't mind me saying this, I don't think he invented the CVJ. I think what he did is map out the natural sequence to a purchasing decision better than anybody's ever mapped it out. Mm-hmm. It's an
analysis tool.
Yes, dude, man, what a brilliant, yes, it's an analysis tool. And if you look at the CVJ, and if you're not familiar, by the way, you have to, and I'll actually find a link. I'm going to drop it here. Check out Digital Marketer's customer value journey, because this is the tool to use to determine whether or not you're actually following a narrative that your customers would be interested in following behind. It's absolutely freaking brilliant. As a matter of fact, I'll share my screen here so y'all can see it. So this is the customer value journey. Mark says Ryan does some amazing work. Yeah, man, I couldn't agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. I'm a brilliant guy. He's been my hero for a long, long time.
We have a question we'll get to. I just want to make sure that the person that chatted in, we're not ignoring it and skipping over to Mark's comment. We're going to get back to you, so hang tight.
Yeah. Good call, John. We begged for questions, and then when they came in, we missed it. But I just dropped this link into the live chat feed, and make sure you go check out the customer value journey. And what it does is it maps people from awareness all the way through purchasing your core offer, and then ascending to being advocates and actually promoting your brand for you. This is the perfect path of a customer. And the way I like to look at this is the story of your customer. And if you can tell this story properly, this is how you can be successful. Really, really phenomenal, just piece of content. And I'm going to butcher your name. I'm so sorry. Richaran asks, how do we get leads for doctors, specifically in the realm of personal branding? We've had quite a few doctors. I'm thinking, John, like we had a naturopath that we did really well for. Yeah.
We had a couple of naturopaths and actually a couple of dentists.
Yeah, a group of nephrologists. Medical's hard because all of the major traffic networks have restrictions for obvious reasons, right? You know, breach of privacy, etc. But
for doctors specifically, anything in the medical remarketing is non-existent because it's a violation of HIPAA. So just in your journey of trying to generate leads for doctors, just understand that if your remarketing campaigns don't work and you don't know why, that's why. Usually the big tech companies just kind of remove any sort of audience uploads or remarketing audience creations because it is a violation of HIPAA. I have a couple ideas, but I'll let you want to go first.
Well, I was just going to maybe offer another cautionary tale before the ideas is you want to be really careful about making attempts at identifying people's actual medical ailments. You can't, like, Facebook isn't going to allow you to say, like, if, you know, I have vitiligo, you couldn't come up to me and be like, if you have vitiligo, like, Facebook doesn't want people to, you know, feel intruded upon. And so you need to be very soft touch, higher level. And I think, like, you know, case study content, I think works really well. Sarah had this problem, and then, you know, et cetera, and that ends up being more engageable. But you fire away, John, with the ideas.
Yeah. Depending upon budget, there's two big paths that you can go down. And you said personal branding, which in my opinion might be the more expensive long-term path. And you probably have all experienced this in probably any country that you're in, if it's legal to do so. But you've seen, you know, the billboards with the people that are like accident injury attorneys, and then the TVs of accident injury attorneys, TV commercials, and just continuous park bench, bus stop, bus. I mean, their faces are everywhere, because what they're doing is prepping their brand to be a household name, so that when you're in that situation, the first name that comes to mind is the thing you see 6 times a day. That's a very expensive route, though, when you're talking about digital, especially, because you're only capturing their attention for fractions of their day. Very, very, very small.
Well, the attention atrophies. I mean, if you carpet bomb the ecosystem with display ads, but a week later, I'm not going to remember you.
Right. And you know who JT Wentworth is, Kasim?
No.
Oh, how about Shane Company?
Sure.
Where are they located?
You have a friend in the diamond business.
On Scottsdale Road in Tacoma. So everyone knows that. Like, I've been hearing those ads since I was like 12. And so that's why I know.
What's funny, dude, is that's where I bought my wife's engagement ring.
Right. It's funny. I've been there. We didn't buy my wife's engagement ring there, but I did go there. But that, if you were to isolate the cost per lead of me walking in the front door, it had to have been $6 million. The years worth of advertising for me. and that lead didn't close. So when you're talking about that, so the personal branding, it's expensive and it's very, very hard to track. It's one of the hardest things to track, because you can spend ungodly amounts of money on all channels. And if they don't convert within, you know, the 7-day click on Facebook, or the 90-day click and view, or 90-day click and 30-day view on Google, they just come in as direct and organic. And then now you're wondering where they came from. Well, which marketing is working? Because it might take them 6 months before they need a root canal, but they saw your ads on the first 3 weeks that you're running your campaign. So attribution.
An argument to that?
Yeah.
I think that branding needs to shift. Coca-Cola, Nike, like, they can afford branding.
Right.
I think for smaller orgs, and honestly, even medium-sized orgs, I think we need to shift the paradigm from branding to thought leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because branding it's neuroassociative conditioning, and that takes, you know, it's just repetition, as many impressions as I possibly can get. Yeah. But if you can establish yourself as a thought leader, like Dave Ramsey, I think, is a really good example. Dave Ramsey has a phenomenal personal brand, but it's because he was a thought leader first. Honestly, Ryan Dice has a phenomenal personal brand. It's because he was a thought leader first. So if you're really obsessive with your brand, the way to buy brand at scale without having to do what John's talking about doing is invest heavily in thought leadership. And that's not hard to do, y'all. That's what we're doing here. You know, I mean, John and I have a YouTube channel. When did we start, John? In October?
Yeah, I think it was about 9 months ago. 8 months
Yeah,
ago.
we started October 2020. We have 3,000 subscribers now, and that's that's a nit in the world of YouTube. Like that's not going to move the needle. Nobody's going to be impressed by that. But I got to tell y'all, we get a lead a day, sometimes two, and there are people that kind of like pseudo know us now, and it's ramping up higher and higher and higher. So you can invest in, and there's a bunch of platforms to do it. Clubhouse, I think, is really interesting. You can capture, wherever your avatar is. Maybe it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or whatever. But I think if you start establishing yourself as a thought leader, then you can build your personal brand. And so a doctor, I'd be really interested to see. And as a matter of fact, that's so funny, man. The doctor that I follow for my own personal issues, not to make this all weird and awkward, I found her on YouTube. Dr. Elizabeth Wentz. She's a thyroid specialist, and she produced the most amazing content I've ever been exposed to. So I think that personal branding can be had, but it should be had through the conduit of thought leadership. You got to pay with money or you got to pay with content, and paying with money is freaking expensive. I didn't mean to interrupt you. That was something.
No, that's. I mean, it's perfect. When you're solving someone's problem, you don't have to buy a lot of ad space. so that's the best.
Oh my God, thank God you're here.
Yeah, it's like that's what I still. I mean, it works, and so I can't combat it. But I just think it's literally the most inefficient way that I can think of. And I don't use the term literally. I don't throw that word around when people just mean seriously.
I'm literally about to die right now.
I know. Don't get me started on that. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I literally cannot think of a less efficient digital marketing or even just marketing approach to shotgunning everybody that's alive on Thursday, hoping that someone has, a bad ankle that I can somehow fix. So that's what I'm saying. The personal branding is not necessarily, not just death by impressions. What Kasim is saying is personal branding. You're branding yourself as a thought leader. Where I would say is a very quick path to gain new customer acquisition tomorrow is, and I'm going to be biased about this, and there's a reason for it, is Google Ads. Hey, the reason why I like Google Ads though is, for $5 or $10, if someone is within a 5-mile radius of your location, and I don't know exactly what kind of doctor, so I'm just going to say dentist, just as an example, and dentist near me, I would pay $5 to meet someone within 5-mile radius who's looking for me for that click to get them to my website. And so that's what's nice about that is it's not they're what we would consider and hopefully this isn't an odd term. I've been using it for years because it comes from the car business. It's called an orphan owner. Orphan owner mean I'm looking for a doctor but I don't have one. Now that's much different than competitors. Like, are you looking for Dr. Moran? Meet Dr. Kasim. Or John Moran, medical MD, blah, blah. Those are going to be more competitive when you're trying to look for a competitor. But when you have someone that's just like, I don't have a doctor, I need a dentist. Who's the best dentist? Local dentist, top dentist, most reviewed dentist near me, dentist Phoenix. All of those right there are great keywords as an example to put yourself right at the top of the page and say, hey, you're looking for a dentist. I'm a dentist. You're within 2 miles of my location. I have 74 5-star reviews. We should talk. And for a few dollars to get that introduction is why I like Google. It's direct response, bottom of the funnel, immediate gratification today. And that's where I would say that if you need to just start to pump in some activity, get the phone calls starting, get the lead forms being filled out, the people chatting, asking if there's any available appointment times, I would say that that's something that is that's a good area to start now while you're developing thought leadership. Because thought leadership can't turn on a thought leadership campaign and the next 3 days just get starting to get traffic to your website. It does take time. It takes time to produce the content. Even longer, it takes time to have those case studies being developed and then producing content around the case studies and then amplifying that on all your channels. So I would absolutely start Kasim's recommendation and continue on and never stop for years. But if there's another area that you need to start to increase that lead flow with a high sense of urgency, Google Ads is, in my opinion, where it's at.
So Richard chatted in again. I know for a fact that most of the hospitals have a ton of ad spend every week, but are horrible in execution. They bleed money left, right, and center. How do I approach them and give my services? I'm going to give you some bad advice. And I think there's a lot of marketers out there that would disagree with me on this, by the way. And John, I'd actually really love for you to challenge me on this if you think I'm going too far. If you are brand new and you don't have the pedigree necessary to go earn that client through the appropriate channels. So, I'm bidding on RFP or referral or, whatever, pounding the pavement, or you just don't want to do those things. I like I like giving in advance. So if you were to identify one of these hospitals or a handful of them, figure out what it is that they're doing, what's their lowest hanging fruit, and then go do that. We have an agency that services only Montessori schools because I have a soft obsession with Montessori. And one of the things that our executive director does is she'll actually rebuild the homepage of a school's website before we've met with the school. Hear what I just said. It's not a proposal. It's like, would you like to see this? Or one of those weird cold emails that says, I have this thing for you. If you want to see it, just hit reply. She actually does all the work for a school that we've never actually interacted with before. And then she comes off and she says, hey, your website had some, some errors. It wasn't compliant with best practices. It needs to be mobile responsive. And, you need to have the menu UI structure, whatever. And I built this for you. I wanted you to see it. And it blows people's minds. The closing ratio, I don't know what it is on a percentage basis, but we're still doing it. So it's obviously profitable. I think that if you've identified a niche that you can serve and you want to get into that niche, go give value first. Come to them and say, hey, look, I analyzed your social media content, and I can just tell you that what you're doing isn't correct because this, and this. I wrote you a month's worth of content for free. Check this out. By the way, I have some other ideas on, I looked at your funnel. I rebuilt your funnel for you. And how could you ignore that? You know what I mean? Like, how could you possibly bat that away? So, and I know people always say like, oh, value time, don't work for free. Like, yeah, of course, long term. But if you're trying to earn business, especially if you don't have the brand to justify somebody listening to you, then I think that's a really good way to be really nimble and kind of get yourself in there. How did I do there, John? Anything you push back on?
No, you're 100% right. And the fact is, because it's funny, especially when you say hospitals have a decision chain that is a nightmare. And I know this because I've worked with hospitals personally in the past. The decision chain needs to go through, the marketing team, production team, half the C-suite compliance. There goes through, right. Yeah. So if you would like to approach them, imagine doing the same, and I'm going to call song and dance, but just call sales pitch. Imagine doing the same song and dance like 6 times to the 6 different teams, and hopefully getting the same reaction and getting them all in the same room and then agreeing to, hey, this is a good idea. What Kasim said does that. It's a tangible piece of asset that has action. It has I'm going to make up a new word, actionability. Coin that. Ding, Moran, new word, actionability. It's an asset that can be deployed. And for that asset that can be deployed to be simply passed around in terms of
actionability, the quality or state of being actionable. Nice try.
Kasim, call our attorney. I'm suing Webster Dictionary. So, so that perfect. I have a new word now. Much better than the word of the day toilet paper that I have. That's junk. I made it do it. So it has actionability, because if I can deliver this to a hospital, they get passed around internally and get a unanimous decision. You've given them a pre-packaged sales pitch in terms of something that's valuable to their green factor. Their green factor is
yourself as a vendor.
Right. If you were to work with me, you get more of this.
Right.
Now, if you were to work with me, here's what I'll do. Everyone says that. And then they base it off of other metrics that have nothing to do with why you're there in the first place. I've taken this one animal shelter and got them 6 more dogs this week. Let me take over your hospital ads. We're like, well, that's great. That has nothing to do with us. So you have to play to their greed factor. And what I mean by that is everyone makes their decisions off of greed factor. Greed factor is literally the only thing that is a deciding point in a person's life, whether they're going to buy a product or service or hire a vendor. It's greed factor. How much more does it help me or my company or our company if I was to do this now? That's all they care about, and that's all that's going to capture their attention. You can, it's a broad statement, but if you can say, well, I'll do the work for free right now, package it up, and then give it to them, they might take your idea and just run with it without you. There's a risk in that.
Well, so I have an answer to that too.
Yeah.
If you're doing it intelligently, you're giving them a piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't look like a piece. You know what I mean? So for instance, if I hand you 30 days full of social posts, I'm going to have some links to in the social posts to blogs that you don't have. And when you come back to me, you're like, hey man, where's this blog? I'm like, oh yeah, I have that. Is that something you're interested in? You know what I mean? So like you can begin the ascension process via the Trojan horse.
Yep, that's true. It's very true, because and if you can give something that is so valuable, but just a small snippet of it, you'll probably get the conversation. You'll probably earn the meeting, I would say. So,
well, and honestly, that's the customer value journey, right? Like if you're looking at the value journey, that's the more or less the subscribe and convert and excite stage sort of wrapped up in that, little elbow of a narrative where, hey, I got in front of you, I have your information, I actually got you to invest some time or money, but time in this particular context, and I got you excited about the thing that I can offer. And the very next segue, now the deal is yours to lose.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be the best approach. Just providing value first, and I think it's always the same narrative. Whenever with our company, we provide full on, like, kind of custom evaluations done in video form for clients before ever asking them to sign a contract. Because we want to make sure that we can be the right partner for them. So we want to make sure we're not just going to like earn a client and be like, oh, we can't help you. So it helps us there. Yeah.
Turns out we lied.
Yeah, exactly. So it's selfish. For us, we want that as well. But for the client, it's like, if you were to work with us, you get more of this. And it makes sense. They can see it. They can visualize that. And it places their greed factor. Ooh, I get more.
We've got 10 minutes left. If you're watching, what I'd love to do is some rapid fire. If y'all have other questions that we can answer in a shorter time span, drop them in the chat. John, I'm curious, while we're waiting on some of those, where do you think this is all going? Like, we've had the biggest shakeup we've ever had, iOS 14 and 15. Flock's coming down the horizon. Without talking about all the privacy first stuff, like, just talk to me about marketing in general, grand scheme. Like, where's your money on for the future?
My fear for small businesses is it's going to be more expensive and less impactful for the Me Too companies. And and when I say Me Too companies, let me qualify that. A Me Too company can, and I'll use the same example so we can kind of stay with the same narrative. If you have a shoe store, you're now going to possibly have the same capabilities as every other shoe store. And meaning you can't say, hey, this person went to my website 6 days ago, looked at the shoe, added to their cart, did not buy, left. I captured their email address from this third-party software. Now I'm emailing them and then putting ads in front of them. You might not have that capability anymore. So my recommendation—
You need a better shoe.
Really? You need a better shoe, or focus on your unique value proposition and your unique selling proposition. You don't have to have the least expensive shoe. Louis Vuitton doesn't— obviously it's the brand, so I'm not discounting the Louis Vuitton brand. The brand is what sells 90% of their value. But being handmade in Italy is a lot better than being, rebranded from overseas. So that unique selling proposition, unique value proposition is what made that brand.
Dude, that's such a good example too, because you can go get a Louis Vuitton knockoff that look, I can't tell the difference. I can't, but people are still paying. I don't know how much those damn things are.
They're a couple grand each. Yeah, it's insane.
It's nuts.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is your unique value proposition and your unique selling proposition are going to be more important than your marketing strategy, because that will still earn a client. We almost have to go back to like radio, TV, newspaper. If you have the best product, it doesn't even have to be at the best price. If you just have the best product, there's an old saying, cater to the rich, you become rich, cater to the poor, you become poor. Now that's a generalized statement. I hope it didn't offend anybody, but if you have a really quality product, charge for it. Charge a premium for it. We're not the cheapest agency. We're not the most expensive agency. We're more expensive, but because we can back it up, because our unique value proposition is just exponential. And so that's where I would say that focusing on why you have the best product, or how to make your product better, or why you have the best service and how you make your service better, you can charge more than your competitor. If you have a better product, people will buy it. They may buy your competitors first, and then come and try your product, because they might have found out that your competitor was less quality or less service. But that's what I think is really important.
Because I think there's another piece to it, and this might sound academic, so forgive me. you need the better product for damn sure, now more than ever. You also need to have the ability, the capability of articulating why your product is better. And this, by the way, there's a whole subset of clients that are like this. These are the engineers. You went and you built the better mousetrap, and your expectation is just that people are going to be able to see that this is the better mousetrap. There's this real fun story about Steve Jobs. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it multiple times. When he built his first computer, he took out a 2-page full page spread, New York Times or whatever, and it was just specs. And it was like, this RAM, memory, speed, whatever. And it failed miserably. Nobody bought his damn computer. And now you look at Apple's ads and they're full page, and it's just like, it's like one word. It's like power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
efficiency.
Yeah, they've done an amazing job at helping to show and articulate their value proposition in ways that we all understand and experience. You know why Apple is a better product. I hate Apple with everything inside of me, but even I am willing to admit it's a more functional tool. It's more sound. It's just, the damn thing just works. Every time I've got a MacBook, and I'm ashamed to admit it, and every time I'm on, it's just a joy to work with, man. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is just so well put together. I have philosophical issues with Apple that I won't get into, but you need the better product. And you need the ability to articulate why your product is better. And by the way, and forgive me, the shameless plug, DigitalMarketer. Like, that's what their content is built around, is helping you figure out how to show people the shift, the before and the after. Ryan has a before and after grid. How do you show them, what do they have? What's their average day? What's their status? Like John's talking about the greed factor. It's just getting granular as to where that greed is housed in their psyche. So yeah, I feel like I soapbox a lot.
No, it was really good. It goes hand in hand. Have the better product, and then tell people about it.
They get really good at telling people why it's a better product. Well, and there's some examples like Beta was a better technology than VHS by like a margin, and yet VHS won out because they just had a better go-to-market strategy.
HD DVD versus DVD.
Yeah.
And then Blu-ray. HD DVD was so much better, but then you're just like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I know. It has the same letters. I feel like I'm halfway there.
Yeah, there's a lot more in the letters of the acronym. That's just hard to remember. HD DVD. I can't say that, but if they just said sharper picture and crisper sound, that might have been like, oh, okay, cool. Well, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
But yeah, and that's what I'm thinking is, as things get a little bit more vague in terms of targeting, you have to rely on being able to, like Kasim says, articulate why you have the better product, and then obviously back it up. And then think about this, especially with the Amazon environment that we're in. You offer free shipping, you offer it in 2 days, you offer free returns, and that is going to, imagine taking away the ability to target a person individually, and hopefully they don't buy from Amazon. When you're in a product-based e-commerce, that is going to get tougher. So being able to have, and then think top of funnel. You're going to have to spend money in top of funnel, educating customers about why you have a better product. And
thought leadership.
Yeah, thought leadership. So
yeah, full circle now.
Yeah, so it's thought leadership, unique selling proposition, unique value proposition, being able to articulate it, and then having a cohesive narrative that you can market is going to be a lot better than just getting in front of the right person at the right time. It might be harder. We don't know yet.
Last question. I'm tired of chasing my clients for monthly retainers to pay me for the work I've done. Talk about your experience and how you've done it. We bill in advance, and it's an auto bill. And if you don't mind me being mildly arrogant, when you're a marketing team that knows what you're doing, we're the tap. If I turn that off, I turn off your leads, I turn off your revenue. So we don't have a problem with people paying us. Now, I'm not going to go kill somebody's campaign or, whatever. Like, that's nefarious and just lacks integrity. But all I'm saying is, if you don't pay us, we, well within our rights, we'll just discontinue our service. And we're like, here's everything. You can have it back, but we're not going to, do what you're not paying us to do. And then the campaigns tank. So I think a lot of it stems from meritocracy, to be honest with you. I hope that's okay to say.
Yeah, I would say, auto bill is definitely something, make sure you can capture a credit card at the time of contract signing. That just gets monthly debited. And then again, too, one thing that we rely on heavily is we make sure our clients know exactly what's going on all the time. I have weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings, monthly reports. everything. And they understand that you're spending X, you're making Y. And hopefully what you're making them pays for the ad spend plus your services. And so they think, well, I just lose profit if I don't pay. So
dude, that's such a good point. Y'all, if you're a marketing agency specifically, you're not a cost. You're not a cost center, you're a profit center.
mm-hmm.
You need to change that. You need to change your own paradigm first, and then you need to change your customer's paradigm. You're not a cost center, you're a profit center. We're the guys that bring in the money. During the pandemic, I saw a couple of clients that canceled on us, and most of them come back, actually, the ones that survived. But I remember thinking, like, gosh, this is short-sighted. Like, when people, when the purse strings get tight, everybody starts cutting off marketing, and I'm like, okay, go turn off the one thing that might actually help you survive.
The worst thing you can do when times get tough is hide.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we hit the hour. Y'all, appreciate all of you that showed up live. So grateful to you. And for those of you that asked questions, even more so. This is really, really helpful. We're doing this every week. It's every Friday. We're doing it 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And we want to get good at it. So, keep coming, keep asking questions. Hopefully we're going to have John back often because he's wicked smart. And other than that, hope to see y'all next Friday. And don't forget to check out the Perpetual Traffic podcast. There's a link in the description of this video. We'd love to hear you. We'd love to hear you listen. We'd love to know that you're listening. There's a way to say those words.
Please listen.
Please listen. All right. Well, on that awkward note, I'm out. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.